Hello to everyone and welcome to Elevation's webinar series. My name is Sarah Henry and I'm coming to you from Elevation, Web Solutions for Nonprofits, with our guest host today, Nydia.
Hi everyone.
I'm so glad all of you are joining us, so go ahead and answer the poll if you haven't already and throw into the chat box where you're joining us from. We love to get to know you guys and kind of figure out where you're coming from and what you want to learn about today. So a few housekeeping items before we jump into the presentation. This webinar is going to be recorded. So don't fret if you have to step out for a moment or you get called into a meeting. We'll be sending out the link to the recording tomorrow to everyone who registered. And if you'd like to take notes or follow along with the slides, they are available for download. I'll throw the link into the chat box, so feel free to download those slides. We have a very loaded presentation for you all today, but if you have questions or comments throughout the webinar, please feel free to put them into the chat box, and we will do our best to get to your guys' questions following each section. We will also be saving them for the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, so hopefully we can get to all of your guys' questions. If we don't, though, we will definitely do our best to follow up with you guys, so we'll send you either an email or get in contact with you afterwards. So we'll do our best with that. And so I'm so excited to introduce our presenter for today. Nydia Verdugo is Elevation's in-house SEM specialist and Google Ad Grant connoisseur. So before I pass over the reins, I just want to quickly end the poll and show you all the results so that you can kind of see what we're looking at today. So most of you looks like you don't have the grant. A few of you do, and great. So a lot of you want to know just how to create a really successful campaign and why you should use it. What is cool. So answers are all over the board. Nice. We'll definitely get to all of that today.
Yes.
And so without further ado, I'll let Nydia take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely introduction. As Sarah has mentioned, I am Nydia, and I'll go ahead and skip here. So if you guys have any questions, you can also send them to my email after the webinar. As Sarah mentioned, we'll do our best to answer them throughout the webinar and after as well. But in case there's any doubts or any specific questions that weren't addressed, you can go ahead and send an email directly to me. I am also a digital marketing strategist here at Elevation, focusing on Google Ad Grants, specifically for nonprofits. So I have over 4 years of experience managing, and I've seen it all. So that's why we've created this great presentation for you guys to understand what it is, how to build effective campaigns, and how to address some issues that you might encounter as well. Okay, so just a little heads up about Elevation. We're a full-service web design agency dedicated to helping nonprofits tell their stories digitally. So we do web design, from branding, email marketing, social media, and of course, SEM, what we'll be talking about today. Okay, so a little bit overview of what you'll be learning today is just more about Google Ad Grants, what you need to know, everything from the application process to also building different campaigns. You'll know the benefits of Google Ad Grants. Since most of you have shown that you don't have ad grants, it's a great opportunity to learn why you should have it and how you can compete in the digital space as well. And then lastly, we'll talk, or I'll address how to tell your nonprofit story through effective campaigns, what that looks like, and what are some of the top campaigns to drive traffic to your site. Okay, so we're gonna start off with what is Google Ad Grants. Everyone has heard of Google, but so many people have actually not heard that Google has an ad grant program for their advertising platform, so I'll address that. What it is a monthly $10,000 in-kind donation for their advertising network. So in their search network, you're able to spend $10,000 a month to be able to show your ads online for potential donors, volunteers, and sponsors. So Google for Nonprofits, it is an application where you're able to take advantage of the different programs that they have, including Google Ads, but there's also YouTube, G Suite, which is Gmail, and then also their Google Apps. You'll find like Drives, Forms, and then Google Analytics. So it all lives within the Google for Nonprofit space. Now, how Google Ads work, very similar to when you're searching something online, whether it's a restaurant you want to go to or just a different service or product. You usually go into Google, you type in a different keyword. In this example, we have, homeless shelter in New York. You see different examples that come up, and they're those ads that come at the very top of the search results. So Google is able to show those different programs and those different ads based on your needs to the different people that might be searching for relevant products and services, and an organization like yours as well. Okay, are we good with any questions? Awesome. So why use Google Ad Grants? Well, this is another great question we get asked often, and I'll give you a couple of reasons. The number one is that Google is the #1 search engine in the US. So everyone knows, Google it, right? When you have a question, you have a doubt, you always go to Google to search answers to your questions. So very similarly, when people are looking for different programs, benefits, different causes, they usually go to Google to find organizations that they can be a part of. So that's why you want to be in that digital space to make sure you're showing up when people are asking for you. Google also represents about 1.6 billion unique monthly visitors. So as you can see, this is such a great opportunity. Of course, depending on your demographic area, location, you can be reaching out to thousands, if not millions of people to make sure that they know about your organization and your cause as well. Google is the #1 US search engine. So as I mentioned, everyone Googles when they have a question, when they're looking for something. And just fun fact, YouTube is the #2 search engine. So as I mentioned earlier, through the Google for Nonprofits, you can also take advantage of YouTube's nonprofit accounts. So once you have Google and YouTube, you're pretty much unstoppable. And then lastly, people just search for products and services on Google versus going straight directly to, Facebook or other places. Usually they'll do it on Google, and from there they're able to find the organization or the different products they're looking for. So number 2, SEM marketing. SEM stands for search engine marketing. So in this instance, these are just some great facts as it pertains to Google Ads and how people can find you. Businesses receive an average of $2 of revenue for every dollar spent. So think of this with your grant. If you got a $10,000 grant, you could potentially have a $20,000 revenue in regards to you get $2 for every dollar you spent. So again, it's just a great opportunity to be in the platform, to be able to have this grant and not have to spend out-of-pocket cost for the specific grant. The second thing is 60% of Google users are unable to identify the fact that they are looking at a paid ad. So a lot of people ask, oh, but it says ad at the very top left corner. No one pays attention. We're all used to it when we're looking for things, and it's become such a part of Google that people trust when they actually see that. That it's a reliable source. Google doesn't just allow anyone to advertise on their network, so you want to make sure that having that actually gives you a validation point. Third thing, 75% of consumers who find useful local information online are more likely to visit. So again, if you're an organization that has a building, for example, let's go back to the example of a homeless shelter. When people are looking for those services and programs, they're likely to also go in the building and ask for those services and take advantage of those services versus just, online. So it's just a great way to drive people to your location as well, whether it's fundraising or different programs that you offer. Okay, and then the third thing is the acquisition channels. What I love about Google is that you're able to attribute every single thing in regards to how people are engaging with your campaigns and all that, and it's all real time. So it's very valuable traffic. You're able to understand who is coming to your website, how much time they're spending on their website. You learn different demographics, behaviors about these people so that you can know who you are serving and how to adapt better to that message as well. There's also, with Google Ads, it's a high search and intent. So compared to other medium efforts such as social media marketing or maybe even, let's say, display marketing, with search, someone already has the intent to take advantage of the specific service or specific programs because they're looking for that. So with Google Ads, you're presenting an answer through an ad to their question through their searches. So that's what we call a high search intent. And then in comparison from Google Ads to social media, Google Ads, you focus on conversions. And so for those of you who may not know what a conversion is, it is any valuable action on your website for your organization. That might be donations, it might be newsletter signups, it might be signups for an event, fundraising, so forth. You're able to track how your campaigns drive these specific conversions to your website versus social media is more of a branding effort, and Google Ads are able to actually track different actions that are valuable to you as an organization.
All right, and let's speak a little bit clearly since the echo is coming out a little bit.
Sure, awesome. All right, number 4 thing, awareness. So with Google Ads, you're able to present yourself in the digital space where people are searching. You can share your story. So every nonprofit has, their story, their why, and you want to make sure to showcase that through Google Ads. You can also drive website traffic, whether you're rebranding yourself or you just want people to visit your website to learn more about your mission or actually sign up for a fundraiser to donate. All those things, you can drive awareness for people to go to your website and do that. Lastly, increase donations, which is very important for any organization. And with Google Ads, you're able to do that as well. So the more you're online, the more you're able to drive engagement and the more you're able to be in that digital space where people can find you. All right, the 5th reason why to get a Google Ad grant, it is easy to receive in the sense that it's a short process. It's a 2-part application, so to speak. It's all online, so you don't have to wait for anything to come through the mail, anything like that. There's also no limited pool of funding. So as long as you apply, you're eligible and you qualify, you get the grant. It's not like there's limited spots or anything like that. And it's also $10,000 of free advertising a month, which is a vast amount. If you just think of what 10,000 can get you as an organization in the advertising space, it can get you so much. So just 10,000 a month is an incredible amount to have to be able to reach your audiences. Another great thing about the grant is there's no annual renewal, so it's not like you have to renew every year. As long as you're in compliance, you pretty much keep the grant for a lifetime. And that leads me to the last point where you have a lifetime grant. So it's always important to be in compliance to make sure that you keep the grant. There's no issues and there's no reapplying or anything like that. You pretty much have it forever. Number 6, you only pay for people who click on your ad. So in comparison to social media or other paid efforts where you pay for views, with this method, you only pay per click. So anytime someone actually clicks on the ad is the only time you pay. You're not paying for people to see your ad and not act on it. You're only paying when people actually click and go to your website. That's what we call a CPC, cost per click. So you're only paying for clicks, not views. There's also a $2 CPC limit. To not get too much into this, basically you pay for keywords. So in this case, you have $2 to be able to spend per click. So if you can just imagine $10,000, and if you're paying $2 per click, how many clicks that can potentially get your organization with $10,000. So it can be in the hundreds, thousand, really depending, but it's just a great opportunity to get all this traffic to your website. And then also you can maximize conversion bidding, meaning you want to focus either on just driving traffic to your site or actually driving people to do something specific on your website, such as donating. So you're able to control all these factors and only pay when someone does it. Okay. Number 7, Google Ads allows for performance tracking, which is another great thing that I love about Google Ads is that at any point, if you have questions about how your campaigns are performing or how things are going, you're able to access all of that through Google Analytics. It's real-time data, so you don't have to wait, for a week for a report. You can always log in and see the performance and how it's doing. There's also different programs available for reporting, such as Data Studio, and then you can also evaluate what's working and what's not working in regards to your ads or your keywords, all of that. Okay. And now we have conversion tracking. I mentioned that this a little bit earlier, but again, it all goes back to, you know, driving traffic to your website, but also understanding the actions people are doing once they get to your website. Because there's no point of driving traffic just to drive traffic, but you also want them to do something, whether it's learn more about your organization, how to get involved, make donations, and so forth. So you want to make sure that you're able to track this, and it's all available through Google Ads. The great thing about it too is you're able to build different campaigns and understand what specific campaigns are driving most conversions to your website. You're also able to understand different keywords. You can get very granular with that. And then, of course, you can track donations, volunteer forms, event registrations, all of that good stuff, which you might already be doing, but you might not necessarily know what is driving some of those submissions. With Google Ads, you're able to tell, you know, whether it's your Google Ads efforts. You can even look at different efforts as, you know, email marketing or social media as well. All right, do we have any questions?
We do have one question from Dave, and he's currently wondering if Google is accepting new applications for Grants Pro. Do you know what that is?
Yes, so Grants Pro is a program that Google offers every now and then. And I say that because sometimes they'll kind of just mention it, you know, a couple of weeks before or so. At this time, there's nothing known for it to be open. Again, it's something to always kind of be aware of because Google is very just kind of random when they put that out there. But yes, Google Grants Pro, obviously, instead of 10,000, you have the opportunity for 40,000 a month, which is obviously a great one. We have some clients that were able to take opportunity of that when they offered it about 2 years ago. So I would definitely say be on the lookout for it when it does happen so you can take advantage of it. Great. Awesome. All right, cool. So I want to move on to eligibility in regards to Google Ads. So you might be a nonprofit and you're wondering, well, do I qualify for the Google Ad Grant? And so I kind of want to answer that in the next few slides. So what qualifies someone to get the Google Ad Grant? One is to make sure you're a 501c3 organization holding a valid charity status. So unfortunately, if you fall anywhere outside of the 501c3, Google will not accept you, but you can still always build a Google Ads campaign, which I always recommend. You just wouldn't apply for the grant itself. You have to agree to Google's required non-discrimination certifications, so that's just something else to be aware of. And then you have to have a live website with substantial content. This one's very important because sometimes we'll get nonprofits that, you know, their website's just not up to date. So it's always very important to have an up-to-date website because if you don't have it, Google will tell you basically to get a new website and then you can reapply. So obviously, if you already have a great working website that's functioning, you know, and you apply for the grant, you just have that better opportunity to get accepted. All right, so some organizations that are not eligible, if you are a government entity, a hospital, or in the healthcare section, and then also any schools or academic institutions like universities, you are not qualified for the Google for nonprofits. So again, 501c3 and mainly these 3 points would be a reason why you would not be eligible for the grant. Now, talking about how to apply, it's rather an easy process if you kind of have all your documents and things ready. But the first one is just, you know, validating that you're nonprofit with TechSoup. So most of you might have, you know, TechSoup ID number and stuff like that. If not, they're, you know, basically Google just like validates to make sure that you're with TechSoup registered and that you're a valid organization. So that's just what they do. You also have to enroll in ad grants. Once you get accepted, you create your account, which is the campaigns, ad groups, and all that, and then you submit it for account for review. So that's kind of in a nutshell the process. As you can see, it's kind of step 1, 2, 3. Of course, where most people find trouble is actually creating the accounts, the campaigns, the keywords, the ad groups. What does it all mean? And so we'll touch bases on that in a little bit. But I want to see if there's any questions on that section.
Yes. We've got a few questions in here. So the first one is it available to Canadian or international charities?
Yes. The short answer is yes. There are some certain countries that are obviously not part of the Google Ad Grant, but the cases that most are, we can always send a link to make sure that your country is listed under that. But yes, Canada would. And most countries are. Again, it's just very few ones that are not accepted, but it's just that they don't have that program available in that country yet.
All right, and Marcia is wondering about interstate fundraising problem, the problem of being registered in the state where you are fundraising. Would Google Grants be considered fundraising in all 50 states?
Yes, so you can fundraise anywhere. For if you're, obviously a US, you can fundraise anywhere. The great thing about Google is you can set geolocation campaigns. So let's say your organization is located in one city or one state. That doesn't mean you're limited to that specific city or state. You can advertise anywhere really in the world. Obviously, you just have to think about if it makes sense for your organization, what areas to target and everything. But yes, you can.
Great. And really quickly, we're going to test one thing.
Okay.
If this sound is so sorry. If this sound is better, please let us know. So hopefully this works out. Okay, great. Oh, wonderful. This is definitely better. Okay, so we have another question. If you're a 501c3 and a K-12 private school, do you still qualify?
So the answer is no. Unfortunately, at any point, even if you're a 501c3, but you fall within those categories, as I mentioned, being one of them, education, you won't qualify for the grant. Again, Google has another great program for educational institutions, which offers different services and programs. Unfortunately, the Google Ad Grant itself is not part of that.
Okay, and then how do we register with TechSoup?
Great question. So when you are in the process of Google Ads application, it will actually, you fill out the different sections, and in there, it basically will do it on behalf of you. You would just select no, that you're not registered with TechSoup, and Google actually does the validation process on your behalf. The only things you have to be aware in case Google reaches out requesting additional information, such as paperwork and stuff like that, but for the most part, Google does it on your behalf, and it's a quick, easy thing if all your paperwork is in order.
All right, and so we'd love to get into all of the specifics for whether or not you are qualified, but let's move forward so that we can get into the rest of the presentation.
Perfect. So now let's talk about how Google Ad campaigns work. It's a rather complex kind of idea, so I'm going to do my best to summarize it for everyone. So everything is driven by keywords, right? So anytime an ad shows up, it's by specific keywords that you as an advertiser decide to put in to the system to say, I want to show up for people searching for homeless shelters or homeless shelters in New York, or homeless programs and stuff like that. So think about your organization, who they serve, what specific programs they offer, and what keywords people are likely to be searching when they are looking for those specific programs or services. So it all comes down to the keyword level, and that's how you set up your campaigns. Next, you would showcase pretty much your organization through what we call text ads, and obviously they would need to be compelling enough. This is just another example going back to the homeless shelter, let's say organization, and make a tax deductible donation now. So this is just a quick example of what a text ad looks like. You have here, for example, the title, the first thing, always needs to be relevant to your organization. Here, I know it serves the New York City area, and it's the homeless shelter, so it's perfect. It's what I'm looking for. Here, it supports, that message. Here, it's saying you can make donations. And then, not to get too technical, but then there's other ways to add more messaging. So you just want to make sure you always have compelling, relevant messaging. With Google, it's all about relevancy. So you want to make sure that you're attracting the right audience with the right ad at all times. And then after that, it just pretty much drives traffic to your website. So people are able to see you. You have visibility on Google's search networks. People are able to know about you, your cause, who you serve, and be able to take advantage of the programs that you offer as well. And what that essentially means is the more people enter your website, you have more supporters, more volunteers, more donors, and all that stuff. So the goal is just always to drive traffic to your website, but also making sure, if you want them to learn about you, how can they get involved? Maybe they can become donors, maybe they can become volunteers, or if it's someone that can take advantage of the specific programs you offer, how do you make that available to them? So it's all about driving them to your working website and offering them the solutions to what they are looking for. Okay, so when it comes to the Google Ad Grants, and I believe there was a couple people that said, yes, we have the ad grant, but it's been deactivated. It's likely because one of these things were not checked off at some point. And so with the Google Ad Grant, you do have to have compliance. So again, to be able to keep your grant, you have to make sure that every month your account follows these things. So one is no single keywords. So that means no generic keywords. Like, let's just say I use the word homeless. It's too broad, it's too general. It's not going to drive qualified traffic. Whereas if I put homeless shelters or homeless New York shelters, obviously that's more specific, and I'm capturing a more qualified audience versus a very generic audience. There's also a thing called a quality score, which pretty much takes into account how the effectiveness of your ads versus your keywords and all that stuff. So you can't have a quality score of 2 or less when it comes to your keywords. So there's ways to set rules to make sure that doesn't happen, but that's just one thing that a lot of people don't do, and they just happen to get deactivated because of this simple mishap. Another thing is you have to have a minimum of 2 campaigns. An example, you can have a branding campaign, and then you can have a donation campaign. And then you have 2 ad groups, 2 extension links, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on that. You also have to set up conversion tracking. So again, those valuable actions on your website, you got to make sure you're at least tracking 1. And this is the biggest one that gets people, is maintaining a 5% CTR. So CTR stands for click-through rate. What this is telling Google is how many people see your ad and how many people are actually clicking on it. So you have to have a minimum of 5%, which is very doable, but of course, because it does take a lot of time to manage these accounts, and with limited resources and time for many nonprofits, they find themselves having the biggest issue with this and being the biggest result for a deactivation of their account. So again, just because you get deactivated doesn't mean you get your grant revoked for a lifetime. You just have to bring it back to compliance. So again, you have to make sure you have a minimum of 5%. And then the last thing is Google does send a program survey at the initiation of your Google Ad Grant. You got to make sure to respond to that, and then you're set to go. And then the very last thing is you have to have text-based ads. So no display banner ads or video ads. It's all strictly the text ads that were shown earlier. Okay, any questions on this?
Yes, Julianne is wondering if you could explain competitor keywords.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. So competitive keywords, let's say you're an organization, I don't know, let's say, for example, you're an organization that has like sort of like you're donating clothes and stuff like that, and you use competitor keywords to try to attract people who might be searching for your competitors. You are not allowed to do that through the Google Ad Grant. So let's say you are bidding for keywords like Goodwill or stuff like that. For Google, you can actually do that legally outside of the grants with any paid account, but with the Google Ad Grant, that's just a policy that you're not allowed to. So just think of anyone that might be doing the same thing as you, whether it's a big organization, for-profit organization, or another big nonprofit. You just can't bid on those keywords. So don't use your competitors as part of keywords to try to generate traffic to your site, because Google will likely deactivate you for that.
Great. And we have another question of, can you send your ads to a third-party site? And if yes, can you use it to track conversions?
That's a great question. I get that a lot, and my answer is always no. That's also the biggest way to get deactivated big time by Google. So a lot of people are like, I want to send traffic to their social media sites, which is great to do that if you want to, but you can't do it through Google Ads. So the only domain that is allowed by Google Ads is the one that you registered with the application. So whatever, let's say it's, elevationweb.org, you can only use that domain. You can obviously push as many traffic to the different sites and pages within that domain, but you can't use anything outside of that. So that includes any third-party links.
All right, and I think let's move on and continue. Yeah.
Perfect. So this is another great thing that I love to talk about is how to create an effective campaign. And I'm sure this is a big question. I think that's the one we got more polls for. So I just want to make it very clear. Having the correct account setup just leads to better management of your campaign, and then also just future campaign success, because if you don't set it up correctly in the first time, it's just going to give you a big headache as to where am I supposed to look at, how am I supposed to organize things, all that good stuff. So I have kind of a method to present in regards to how that should look like. So everything when it comes to Google starts at the account setup level. So everything starts with a campaign. So think of a campaign, different goals for your organization. That's how it should be. So let's say one of your goals is, I want to increase volunteers. Awesome. You create a volunteer campaign. Another goal is to increase donations. Awesome. Create a donation campaign. So those can be your campaigns. Ad groups, think of them as subcategories to your campaigns. So for volunteers, let's say you have volunteers for a specific event, and then you have volunteers for another event. So all your volunteer your campaign volunteer would have all these subcategories to different volunteers, events and stuff like that. Same thing with donations. Maybe donations, an ad group would be corporate sponsors. Another one just be one-time donors. Another one can be, lifetime donors, that kind of thing. So that just gives you an idea to have a big campaign and then break it down by category. Same thing, let's say you have programs, you can break down those programs to, let's say, life skill programs, and you have another, arts programs, health and fitness programs, just to kind of give you an idea based on your organization. Try to break things down as much as you can. And then after the ad group level, that's where you have keywords. So again, with Google, it's all about relevancy. So I have a campaign that's for donations, and I want to specifically target corporate sponsors, then my keywords have to be relevant to that. So my keywords would involve, corporate sponsors and so forth. And the keywords for my one-time donors would be different. Let's say my organization is let's say they serve animals and stuff like that. So what I can do is, donate to an animal shelter, or one-time donations to animal shelter, tax-deductible donations to animal shelter. So the keywords always have to be relevant to the specific ad group. That way you're able to target people more effectively. Because at the end, even though all of this happens behind the curtains, what the consumer at the end ends up seeing is the text ads, right? Those compelling text ads. So you want to make sure that your text ads are showing up for relevant keyword searches. So your text ad would also be relevant to the keywords and to the ad group and to the campaign that you've built. So that's the structure of the account setup. When it comes to keyword selection, there's a couple different things to keep in mind. You obviously have to do your keyword research. There's different tools you can use to do that. Google has the Google AdWords Planner, so you can actually type in one keyword that you think is relevant to your organization, and it'll give you 1,000 other ideas. And of course, you kind of pick and choose which ones are relevant. to your campaign and to your ad group, and you kind of pick those. There's also different things called match types. So not to get into a lot of detail of that, but you can be very specific as to, you know, I just want to target anyone who's searching for these specific keywords, or it has to be this specific search phrase and stuff like that. So you're able to build campaigns that way as well. Going back to the competitor thing, you want to avoid any competitor names. And then also think about your negative keywords. Think about traffic you do not want to attract. And if, you know, for example, let's say you are a animal shelter, you want to avoid any keywords that people might be searching for, you know, buy. You don't want to attract those people, or you want to just avoid attracting traffic that is not relevant to what you do and what you serve. So negative keywords just tells Google, do not show my ad for these specific keywords. All right, and then text ads as well. You can target individuals who are interested and motivated based on your different campaigns. So again, going back to building compelling text ads that are relevant based on your campaign goals and the different ad groups you have. So let's say an ad for this volunteer event is going to be different than the other one, right? Like besides the details and stuff like that, like some volunteers I might want to attract college students, other volunteers I might want to attract just anyone, right? So you kind of have to make sure your text ads compel that message. And you want to send them to relevant landing pages. So what this means is sending them to pages within your website that are working, there's no issues with load time, and it's relevant to the content in your text ad. So if I'm having a text ad that talks about donating to animals, but then when they click on it, it takes them to a blog page that's not relevant at all, they're going to leave, and it gives you a bad quality score. So always relevancy throughout your campaign, your keywords, your text ads, and the page you're sending them to. Another good practice is to always include at least one keyword from your keyword pool into the text copy of your ad. So this example, we have homeless shelter New York. That's likely a keyword in my ad group level, so I want to try to use at least one keyword in there, so that way it kind of goes back to algorithms, so that Google is able to serve your ad more often to your audiences. You want to use CTAs as well, which are call to action. So you don't want to just put a message out there and that's it. You want people to do something, right? So what is it that you want them to do? Is it to donate? Is it to, you know, click here, whatever it is? You want to make sure you have a CTA within your text. And also just keep in compliance. So no symbols, excessive symbols, and make sure you have correct spelling in your ads. Okay, so we also have this thing called ad extensions, and it pretty much enhances your ad. So here you can see an example of some of those ad extensions. These are what we call site links. So it's just this specific ad is going to take me to a specific page, but if someone clicks the About Us, Donate Today, and so forth, it's going to take them to those specific pages. So it's just another way to capture your audience and send them to different sections of your website if needed. Some of those ad extensions include your phone information. You can also do reviews, location, and then also call outs, which is, you know, if it's different programs you offer, you can kind of list those there as well. So it's just another way to support and add more to your ads. Another great thing to consider about Google Ads is cross-device storytelling. So when you're building these campaigns and these ads, think about the different ways people are likely to see your message, whether it's on a desktop, tablet, or mobile, and adapt your messaging to that. So obviously you want to keep it short and sweet, but informative as well, because people's attention span is shorter as time goes by, and especially if they're on a mobile device. So your mobile ad might look a little bit different than your desktop ad. So that's something to always consider. And you can always bid adjust, meaning you can always allocate more money to serve your ads on certain devices versus other ones. Again, if you see most traffic comes to your mobile site, so it's always a good idea to just put more eggs in that basket to make sure people are seeing you when they're searching online through their mobile device. And very important is to always check your load times on the different devices. I would always recommend to make sure whether someone is viewing your website via mobile or desktop that they are having no issues with it, because if you're seeing errors, then also the person that's clicking on the ad and going to the landing page through mobile or desktop, they're also seeing those same errors. And if someone is having errors with like load time and stuff like that, they're just likely to leave, and so that can just leave a negative impact on the website experience. Another thing is to consider languages. So, whether you're targeting different languages, Spanish or English, to build your text ads to reach your target audiences, obviously always make sure that to proof it and that there's no translation discrepancies in regards to some messaging as it pertains to certain words or certain language that's used from one to the other. And then lastly, just think about the global reach. You can pretty much reach anyone, anywhere. Someone asked the question earlier, if I have a fundraising campaign here, can I do it somewhere else? The answer is always, you can reach anyone, anywhere. You kind of just got to make sure you tell Google that. So you can target citywide, statewide, regional. You can even get as specific as your zip codes. Again, it's always considering your organization, who they are serving. Some people just serve certain counties, so make sure you're only showing up for those counties and so forth. And then you can even get as specific as targeting people around a specific building, like your building. Obviously that, makes things a little too narrow, but you can always have that option as well. Okay, so after everything that's been talked, just a little quick Google Ads checklist to make sure when you're building campaigns, they always have these crossed off. Having a keyword list, always think about competitive keywords, having a negative keyword list, having a minimum of 2 campaigns, 2 ad groups per campaign, 2 text ads per ad group, 2 site link extensions minimum. And don't forget, you can link your Google Ads to your Google Analytics. So again, you can kind of set that up and then set up conversion if applicable to your organization. So I think that leaves us with that section.
Yes, so we've got a few questions. Awesome. So if a keyword isn't getting a good CTR, should you pause it or delete it? And if it's paused or deleted, does the poor CTR for that keyword still count against the monthly cumulative CTR?
That's a great question. So my advice is never delete, always pause. So if something's not working, just pause it. What happens when you delete something, it deletes all your data. So even though, let's say something's not performing well, it's going to take away that data. And so you don't want to lose any data, because it's always good to have something to reference to and look at to see what's worked, what hasn't. So deleting it, you pretty much lose that insight, whether it's for future planning or whatever it is. In regards to pausing or what you should or should not pause, it's all very relative. My recommendation is looking at the impressions versus clicks, which obviously gives you the click-through rate. With the keyword level, you don't have to be at 5%. You can be less than that. But if you're seeing there's one keyword that's 1% and the rest of your keywords on average are higher than 3%, then that's going to give you indication that's a low-performing keyword, so you can pause it. And I don't know if I answered everything, but yeah.
And then do you need to launch new campaigns each month to remain eligible, or can you maintain ongoing campaigns over extended lengths of time?
So the answer would be the second one. There's no minimum per month. It's just the minimum once you launch. You got to make sure that you at least have one ad campaign with 2 ad groups and stuff like that. But yeah, you can maintain those. And obviously, what I like to do is, take a look at what your annual planner is as an organization and relate that back to your campaigns. So if there's certain events or fundraising efforts happening certain time of the year, launch those campaigns as well during that time of the year.
All right, and then is it possible to have too many keywords? For example, if I have a bunch of keywords and some aren't getting any impressions at all, should those be removed or paused?
So paused, yes. The thumb of rule is, again, it all goes back to relevancy. At any point where you have, let's say, more than 20 keywords per ad group, it's probably best idea you move to another ad group, just because You want to stick to 15 to 20 max in regards to each ad group. Anything above that, you pretty much are kind of just, adding things to add things, and you should break things down to a different ad group, again, for relevancy.
All right, and then, so in going back to the third-party site, if you're creating a campaign that takes the ad to your site and then sends you to a third-party site where you're either registering for an event or filling out something else, like an appointment, would that still count in the conversion and click-through rate?
So you can do that. So let's say you, like you said, you're sending someone to the organization page, and from there they can go off to a third party. Unfortunately, in regards to tracking, we can only track up until they're on your website. So anytime they leave to a third party, none of that can be tracked. Another thing with that is any landing page you're sending people to from Google Ads has to have enough content. So if it's just a page that literally has 2 sentences and then a third-party link, Google is going to scan that and say, hold up, that's not right. So you want to make sure you have substantial content on whatever landing page. I would just copy the same content maybe that's on the third-party site, just to beef it up a little bit, and then you can still have a button that sends to the actual registration page or whatever it is. Yes.
Okay. And then did you mention resources for researching keywords, and what are those?
Yes, so aside from the Google Ads Planner that is available through the Google dashboard, another great tool that I like to use is Ahrefs, which is ahrefs.org or .com, sorry. So it's another tool that gives you insights in regards to all the keywords that people search for. So it's similar to the Google AdWords Planner, but it just gives you a little bit more data and just more information. Another great strategy that I like to use, literally going to Google and typing different relevant keywords and seeing what pops up as recommended keywords. There you can get some ideas of what people are actually searching for as well. And then the last thing I would say is your website. Whatever content is on your website is likely you're able to pull different keywords that you can also use for your campaign. So those are usually the sources I use.
All right. Let's move on, and if there's more questions, we'll get back to those.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about strategies in regards to your Google ad campaigns and how to build those. Obviously, you want to share your story. That's going to be always the essential important part. This is also sometimes known as awareness or branding. So through Google Ads, you can reach a large audience, tell people where to click, and people are just able to learn the why about your organization. So always showcase who you are. There has to always be that compelling story no matter what. Other ones are obviously attracting donors. This is a big one for organizations. Without donations, it's hard to kind of continue some of those processes. So increase your exposure. When you tell a story, people are able to be like, okay, I know who they are. I relate to them. I want to donate, right? So it's always important to tell a story to also be able to get donations to drive people to your website and get those supporters, whether it's a one-time, whether it's ongoing. Sharing a story always goes back to that. Same thing with recruiting volunteers. People will likely want to volunteer after they know your story. So, they might not fall under the donations audiences, but they might fall under the volunteers. And so having those advocates for your organization is going to be very important as well. You can build campaigns to increase your volunteers. And then also you can track. So let's say you have a volunteer application on your website. You can track actual submissions of all that. So it's always good as well. And another thing is to promote content. I always tell organizations, if you're not writing blog articles, you need to be doing so, just because for different efforts outside of Google Ads, it's just great for people to see you as kind of like that thought leader when it comes to certain topics in your organization. So let's say you're an organization that serves to people with disabilities. You can write blogs every month that are relevant, whether it's transportation for people with disabilities or education, those different topics that people are already searching for. It's a great way to capture audiences and send them to you to learn more. So again, this is a great way to increase awareness, and education, which a lot of people, they just want to learn more, and that's going to be important to be done through blog articles, which of course you can promote Google Ads to drive people to your blog page, which obviously the blog would have to exist within your website. So any, I don't know, Tumblr or anything like that wouldn't work, but specifically if it's hosted on your website, then you can drive traffic there. And then lastly, fundraising. Of course, there's different events or different campaigns that happen throughout the year. So with fundraising campaigns, you can also recruit volunteers to help with those specific campaigns. You can increase signups, and if it's a race, if it's specific events that require tickets, you can kind of increase that. And of course, just your overall goal of fundraising. So fundraising, again, campaigns are really great for you to implement into your Google Ads campaigns. Oh, I guess that wraps things up. So,
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation, Nydia. So we have a great 10 minutes left to answer all of your questions. So feel free to throw those in right now, and we'll get back to a few in just a moment. So if you have questions that are more specific or we don't cover today, make sure to check out Nydia's email, nverdugo@elevationweb.org. And if you'd like to learn more about Elevation's Google Ad Grant management services, we've got 2 links for you right here. The first one is a description about what we do, and the second one is if you would like to get started, you're more than welcome to sign up for a free month to work with Nydia. And so feel free to sign up on that link below, and we can get started and help you out getting your campaign set up, and etc. So let's get back to some questions now and continue. So we have a question regarding YouTube ads. I just want to clarify that, make sure I'm correct on this. The Google Ad Grant only applies to text ads on the search engine, but there is also a YouTube ads separate available grant. Is that correct?
Yes, so with the YouTube, that is correct. So through the Google Ad Grants, again, Google AdWords grants, you can't run YouTube campaigns, but through the Google for Nonprofits. So once you get accepted to Google for Nonprofits, as mentioned earlier, you have access to different programs, Google Ads being one of them, and then the YouTube program being another, where you can run specific, I wouldn't call it ads, it would be more running specific, think of it almost like social media marketing, but like in YouTube form, so you can promote certain content and stuff like that, very similarly to how you would do a campaign. You can, select specific keywords or audiences and stuff like that, but yes, that is correct. That is a separate thing that Google also offers.
All right. Great. And if you notice that in the back end, Claire has asked that the language is always connected with business and not the nonprofit account. Does this mean that she's in the wrong space, or is all of the back ends universal depending on no matter what you're?
Yeah, no, it's all the same thing. In regards to that, the reason we use business often is because, we kind of just go back to the donation part, even though obviously it's not for a for-profit organization, but that's just kind of how Google usually directs to things in regards to that space. Also because if you think about, there's a thing called Google My Business, which even if you're a nonprofit, you can build a Google for Business, and it's just like, think of it like as a front store of your organization where it has information like hours, people can leave reviews and stuff like that. So that's just kind of the terminology that is often used for that.
Great. And is the $2 CPC limit on all bidding methods or just manual bidding?
So yes, it would just be for manual bidding. It depends on the bidding strategy. So if your strategy is to drive clicks, which is the click method, then you are limited to the $2. If your bidding is for conversions, then you are actually able to spend more than the $2. So to apply for the grant, they're actually just switch where you are required to start with conversion. The thing that happens is with conversions, you have to give it some time to collect data after you've had a certain number of conversions. then you're able to switch to a conversion bidding strategy. So it's always recommended to start with the clicks and then move into a conversion after you've generated a few conversions. But you can start still with a conversion bidding strategy. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to kind of get that ramp up going. But it's all relative.
All right, great. And then I'm going to scroll back up, and we had a further question regarding state lines. I just want to see if you've had any situation where a nonprofit has been trying to advertise in a different state, and they receive you're not registered in our state, you have to fill out a registration and pay, etc. Because Marcia seems to have had some issues with this in the past. Have you noticed that's been a problem, or do you have any problems crossing state lines?
That's interesting. I've actually never have encountered that problem, so I would say it's the first. For me, it would be something that really needs to be discussed with a Google's team. What I can see the problem being is, like I've mentioned before, you can be an organization located in a certain area and target different areas. It all probably has to be with your website content. So it could be somewhere on your website you're specifically saying you're only serving a specific area, and but then your targeting is like US, then that can probably be the issue. My recommendation would be if you are targeting more than where you're currently listed, I would just say, we serve these counties and the entire United States or something like that. So usually it has to go back to what is the messaging on your website, and Google might have just scrolled and kind of seen that you only serve certain areas, but you're targeting to reach a larger area. But again, that's usually not a big issue, so it's kind of interesting to see that. Yeah, I would take it to the Google team and see how they can solve that.
All right. And then Julianne has an interesting question. It says when she signs up, there's a variety of different nonprofit types, but her nonprofit doesn't fit neatly in any of the categories. Is it best to just find the closest category? And more info if needed.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's happened to me a lot of times. So yeah, just find the one that's closest to what your organization offers. Obviously, if it's something total opposite, then Google might be like, hey, what's going on? But usually there's no problem as long as you pick one that's relatively close. There's just so many causes that for them, obviously they just put kind of like the top that they can think of. But again, just pick something that's relatively close. That's never been an issue where they've been like, hey, that's not really it, or it's close, but it's not it, so you'll be fine.
All right. I think that's about all of our questions. Oh, someone has asked if you could re-explain the $2 CPC limit. Again, that seems to be a point of confusion for a few people.
Sure. So there's different bidding strategies when it comes to Google Ads. The two main ones is for clicks, maximize for clicks, and then the other one is maximize for conversions. So with the $2 CPC limit with Google Ad Grants, anytime you're running a maximize for clicks campaign, you are only available to bid $2 or less. So again, if you're running a maximize clicks campaign, just know you can't bid more than $2. But if you want to bid more than $2, let's say you've done keyword research and you see that on average keywords cost about $5, so the $2 is going to limit you, you can do maximize conversions and you're able to bid over the $2 limit. I hope that answers that.
Okay, great. I'm scrolling back because there was a few questions before that I just want to check. Someone was wondering if their site is an electronic health record site. Do you believe that that would be accepted, not accepted?
Without doing enough investigation in regards to the organization, it's hard to give a yes or no in this case. Obviously, I'll give you an example of an organization that technically, well, it doesn't technically, but you would think, oh, it's like a government. But what they do is they provide reporting regarding different policies for a specific county. So in that case, because it's more of a research and reporting and not a government entity itself, they are, they were allowed the grant. So just think of that if you're literally a hospital or anything like that where you're serving communities like that, then I would say no. But again, without kind of doing proper research, it's kind of give a hard yes answer. I would say go through the application process, initiate it, and you'll know right away if you get, if you're not able to move forward, and they'll tell you because you're not eligible.
All right, and then Susan seemed to have had trouble with her TechSoup account.
Mm-hmm.
Does your TechSoup need to be connected to the Gmail account? And if that's not the problem, then Susan, you should reach out to us later.
When it comes to TechSoup, like I said, again, there have to be like a couple questions that I ask before kind of giving an answer, but usually whatever email you use to start your application should be the one you do everything. So there could just be a confusion in regards to the email you used for the application and the email linked to your TechSoup, which doesn't have to be the same, but it could just be a miscommunication in regards to the application process. Somewhere kind of got mixed up in regards to the reach out of the specific email. So that's kind of something I can think of on top of my head without really, again, looking deep into that.
All right, so it is now 2 o'clock Eastern, and I just want to say thank you so much to Nydia, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. If you still have questions, please write down. The email again is nverdugo@elevationweb.org, still up on that screen there. So please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And if you're interested in learning more and want to just take the stress of Google Ad Grants off you, we are here to help. So feel free to reach out and let us know. We hope you all enjoyed the presentation today and dealt with our echoey sound and hope to deal with that in future presentations. But thank you all so much for being here, and thanks Nydia again for joining us. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone, and we look forward to chatting again with you soon.